What's up, YouTubers? It's me again, Brian, aka Gamer55551, and I am back with a video game review. And for this one, we're going to be taking a look at Dead Cells for the excuse me, for the Nintendo Switch. Game is also available on PS4, Xbox One, Mac, Linux, and PC and Steam. But for this review, we're going to be looking at the Nintendo Switch version. And if you're interested in some gameplay footage, I'll have a link in the description below of this video. Now, I'll be honest with you, I didn't really hear. I read about Dead Cells here and there, but I didn't really catch my attention. Not until the whole IGN flip controversy, where basically, for those who are not familiar, one of the editors who worked at IGN supposedly was accused of stealing someone else's review, in other words, plagiarism, in which basically a reviewer by the name of Boomstick Gaming posted a video talking about how this person copied his review of Dead Cells and so forth, which later caused a whole domino effect and pretty much got the person fired from IGN, who then later tried to challenge people about his history of plagiarism, which several people dug up and all that stuff. So there's a whole lot of videos about it. So it's sort of interesting that whole situation happened. Because of that, it's what made me want to check out Dead Cells, though. And after playing the game for a couple of weeks, I honestly have to say that this is probably one of the few indie games out there that I could think of that I could see this being sort of a game of the year type material of a game. I don't know if it will overthrow, say, games like Octopath Traveler or God of War, but it definitely fits up there in that category. And I will say I definitely had fun with this title. So why don't we start off with our pros and cons. So we'll start first with the pros, and we'll start off with the first one, and that is the visuals. I honestly have to say I love the art style that they had for this game. It has sort of like a little bit of a pixel, like it's a 2D game, but it has that little interesting pixelated art style, and the music is just beautiful. I just love the music in this game. So from a visual standpoint, it looks really good, and music wise, it's very good as well. The next one I want to talk about is the gameplay, and the gameplay is definitely the strong point. Basically, the game is sort of a part hack and slash, while it also has a mixture of roguelike elements and Metroidvania style gameplay, where you basically are traveling, where basically certain areas cannot be accessed until you require certain items, and the roguelike approach, in which basically every time you die, the map changes, so it's not always the same all the time. I also like the fact that you get there's a little bit of that Strider and Shinobi feel to the game when you play it, though. So you basically can choose to start with, like you start off with your sword, but you can sort of upgrade your weapons to using different kind of weapons. For me, I use basically the sword and the bow and arrow to hit enemies in long distance and so forth. But for me, I love the fun hack and slash approach. I love the fact that it's a combination of the Metroidvania and the roguelike approach with gameplay, and I certainly like that sort of Strider Shinobi feel that the game has to it. Which, as a side note, I would like to see Capcom do another Strider game, and Sega bring another Shinobi game. That would be great. Thank you very much. And last but not least, though, is the Dark Souls feel to the game. For those who are not familiar, Dead Cell also, along with following a Metroidvania and a roguelike approach, it also has a bit of a Dark Souls in it, which the game can be difficult and brutal, which can be a good thing. But I do feel the game is a little bit more forgiving. Unlike those games where sometimes, like, say for example, if you die in Bloodborne or Dark Souls, you lose all your money. In Dead Cell, depending on how well you level up your character, let's say for example you die, you can start, when you start a new game, you can start with, say, like 3,000 golds, which can give you sort of a head start if you're trying to buy weapons or unlock doors and so forth. So the game, while can be punishing, though, it's also a bit more forgiving than, say, Dark Souls and excuse me, and Bloodborne or Null is, though. So based when you level up your character, when you unlock certain things, those things become permanent. Even several upgrades, such as the ability to create, I think, like these plants-like, go to these creatures that open up these plant-like vines that you can climb up. Those are like permanent, regardless if you die or so forth. So, to me, the game is a little bit more forgiving than, say, Dark Souls is, but it still has that Dark Souls feel to it. And to me, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we'll get to part 2, which is the con. So, take a little break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 2 of our video review of Dead Cell for the Nintendo Switch. So now that I gave you the pros, why don't we get started with the cons? And there's only 2 cons that I can really think of, at least based on my time with playing the Switch version of Dead Cells. The first one, and this has to do based on preference at all. Now, as I mentioned in the pros, I told you about how the game sort of has a Dark Souls feel to it, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. That said, though, that kind of style, that kind of game may not appeal to everyone. So if you're not really a big fan of games like Dark Souls or Bloodborne or I think Noel, if I'm saying the name correctly, Noih. Excuse me. Yeah, so apologize if I'm not saying that name correctly. Then you might have a hard time with Dead Cells. So this is a game that can get a bit brutal if you're not careful, and there is a good chance you will die a lot in this game, though. So it's sort of like you gotta get a little bit better and so on. So that's the kind of game it is. So and that's what I mean when it takes sort of like a Dark Souls kind of approach. So if you're not a fan of games like Dark Souls and so forth, then chances are you probably are not gonna like Dead Cells. And last but not least, last con I could think of for this game is that while the Switch version plays fine, and for the most part I've enjoyed playing the Switch version, I noticed has been some cases of some performance issues here and there. There have been some times when basically when I'm playing, the game kind of freezes a little bit, and then like my character's here, it freezes, and then suddenly it's over. My character's over here as well. So I've run into that occasionally. Does it ruin the game completely? Not necessarily. It doesn't happen all the time, and it's worth pointing out that even after I downloaded the update for the system, the update for the game, though, it still ran into some similar problems. But it's not widespread. It didn't prevent me from enjoying the game, and I don't know if PS4, Xbox One, Linux, Mac, or PC and Steam versions have had the same problem as well. So for overall, at least as far as the Switch version goes, I noticed there were some performance issues in the game, but like I said, it didn't prevent me from enjoying the game, and I didn't feel like it was as widespread at all. Overall, I really enjoyed Dead Cells, though. It's one of the few indie games out there that I really like, and I'm glad that we're seeing more and more Metroidvania style games come to the Nintendo Switch. It's fast-paced, it's fun, and I like the roguelike and Metroidvania style that they added to the game, though. The difficulty might be a turn-off for some people, but overall, I really don't mind. I don't mind that Dark Souls feel to it, though. But if you're looking for an enjoyable indie game to play, or something, or a Metroidvania-style game to play right now until Nintendo releases Metroid Prime 4, which most are guessing possibly 2019, then I would say give Dead Cells a try. It is certainly a fun indie game to play, regardless if it's the Switch is your main system, or if it's the PS4, Xbox One, Mac, Linux, or PC and Steam. It's worth trying out. So overall, I definitely recommend Dead Cells. Okay, this concludes this review of the Dead Cells for the Nintendo Switch. And again, these are my opinion. What are yours? What are your thoughts about Dead Cell? Is it the kind of game that interests you in any way? Do you like the idea of roguelike mixed with Metroidvania and all? Do you think the game is too difficult in terms of like Dark Souls difficulty, or do you feel that the difficulty is just right? Is it the kind of game that interests you and all? Do you agree with what I said in this video? Do you disagree? Do you have a difference of opinions? As always, sound off on the comment section below. Let me know what you think. And I hope you hit that like button. I would appreciate it. And I hope you do subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you do, make sure you hit the bell icon for notifications of any new videos I post up. Also, feel free to share this video if you want to. And feel free to donate to my channel if you like. You could do it through PayPal me or Patreon. Links will be in the description of this video. Excuse me. And I will see you again next time when I do another video. Hopefully that will be soon. Until then, from Southern California, I wish you all a good day then. Bye!